Okay, I haven't had a chance to do an update on the actual gardens outside. I've been mostly focusing on the greenhouse. This is our main garden, as most of you will remember. Just to show the difference between what happens when you mulch with wood chips or anything that's a deep mulch, and when you don't. That's a big difference. This part down here has been tilled twice this year so far. This part we haven't bothered because by the end of the week it's going to be covered with wood chips and cardboard, so it'll be fine. This side here was mulched late in the fall, and there's almost no weeds coming up in here at all. The areas that we do find weeds are where pieces of the cardboard overlap each other, so they've come up through the cracks. Over on this side was mulched the fall before that, or the spring before that, I think it was. I think it was last spring that this side was mulched. And most of the weeds have come up in between the two patches, again where the cardboard overlapped, because last year this was all dirt where we had our potatoes. I will say that weeding in this is so easy. We could come out here and in about 15-20 minutes this whole thing will be cleared with weeds, and they don't come back very quickly at all. Mostly what we're dealing with is weeds that are in the ground, and where the cardboard was fairly solid, there's no weeds at all. We do have some issues with crabgrass and morning glory that come in from the edges of the garden or where it's been cut, and that's our biggest problem this year and last year as well, but it's working out pretty good. What we're planning is we'll be putting tomatoes in this section and down to where that grass edge is. Probably this coming weekend we'll have them planted out. And then the back end back there is going to be mostly our white potatoes, because they'll be easy to till, and then in the fall we'll cover it with cardboard and wood chips so that we can not have to use the tiller next year, hopefully. Down here, the first thing we have planted in this garden is some onions. They're about 3 to 4 rows wide, and they go the length of the garden. These were started a little bit later than the other onions we have in. Then after the onions, there's a section here that we planted last fall in potatoes, and hopefully they should be up soon. I know some of the other volunteer potatoes that we've dug up as we were planting other things are just starting to sprout and send out roots now. So hopefully these will be doing the same thing. Then over here, the garlic's doing really well. Normally we grew the soft neck type of garlic, and then last fall we bought some hard neck garlic from a local farm stand, and we planted that, and it's doing amazingly good. So I think this year we're going to switch to growing this style of garlic from now on. It seems to be doing much better here. And then this is the onions that we planted earlier. You can see that they're doing much bigger than the other onions are. There's only a few weeks difference, but it really makes a big difference with onions. So we've had a hard time growing onions in our garden here, and I think it's because our yard is so shaded and it's so much cooler here than it is if you go pretty much any direction from our place, because the bush next door to us really shades a lot of our yard for most of the day. And this garden's in probably the lowest place in town, so it makes a big difference. You get more frost here. We had a lot of rain yesterday too, and it's brought up a lot of weeds. We'll be working on that later. This area, you might remember we had the raised beds in. They were kind of a U-shape. We took them out last fall. We used some of the lumber to expand the greenhouse, this one here. And now we're working to put the cardboard down and fill this with wood chips. And what we're going to do is this one trellis here, we're going to make another one coming along the back over here, and then it's going to go down and attach to the trellis that's over there. And so we're going to be growing our pole beans there. And then next year we're going to make some smaller trellises in the center to grow more beans on. This year it's probably going to be zucchini or cucumbers planted in the middle. This is the garden we've been doing most of the work on so far this spring. This section here has our yellow bush beans in. I planted them about a week and a half ago maybe. And we've covered them with the floating row cover to help protect them, and the extra heat should help get them going quicker too. Then we've got 5 rows here, and the first 2 rows are beets, and then there's a row of rutabagas, and then turnips and radishes. We grow a lot of radishes and turnips and things like that because we use them not just for ourselves. We eat a lot of stir fries and salads and whatnot, so we can use a lot of them, but we can sell some. We also use them for our animals. Then there's a small walkway here, and then we have another bed planted, and in this we've put in corn. It's the baby corn for stir fries, and radishes. And then when we get over to this section, which we were working on planting yesterday in between the rain, this has the cauliflower in it. So they're pretty small. They seem to grow slower than the cabbage does, even though they were started about the same time. There's almost 2 rows of cauliflower. And then we'll still put the cabbage and the collard greens in to fill out these 2 rows here. After that, we're going to be putting in some red potatoes in this area. We expanded the garden over on this side this spring. We surrounded our gooseberry bushes, which are doing really nice this year. They're really loving the mulch. And we've expanded it down and over there, and we're making a curved pathway to go around the other raised beds. We're going to be doing our cucumbers in here this year so that they can just vine out, and because we put the cardboard down and then the wood chips right on it, there's no dirt. So what we will do is we'll rake the wood chips back, we'll put in some potting mix and then transplant into that and pull the wood chips back. We tried that last year with some things and found it worked really well. The problem we had was that we used our own compost last year, and it had a lot of weed seeds in it, so it actually brought in weeds into our garden. This year we bought some sterile potting mix to use, so that shouldn't be a problem. And then by next year the grass underneath this will be completely composted, and all we'll have to do is just plant normally, and it's not very hard at all. So next year we're planning to put some potatoes in this section. But yeah, it's been a lot of work getting everything going this spring, but it's coming along. Just one small step at a time is all you can focus on. Otherwise it would get too overwhelming trying to do all the garden projects at the same time. But so far we've been having a lot of good luck with the gardens. We've been eating lots of asparagus from our other patch, and the rhubarb's ready to start harvesting now. The apple trees were flowering really nice there last week. The frost hit them pretty good, but I'm hoping that they got pollinated first and hopefully there wasn't too much damage, because it would be really nice to have some apples from our own garden. You know, they just taste so much better. We did a good pruning on this one. We topped it, and we had a whole lot of top growth that you could hardly ever reach without a ladder. We took all that off, and we've been training the branches to come more out and down a little, and it flowered more than it ever had flowered before this year. Just beautiful. This is the other apple tree. We didn't top this one off yet because it had some damage to the trunk last year. A rabbit or something had stripped the bark off, and we wanted to give it time to heal. It came back this year and was doing well. We did open the middle of the tree up a lot, and this coming winter what we'll do is probably take off the branches that are going straight up. This tree, I'm not sure what variety it is, but the apples are they're really different. When you cook them, the applesauce turns pink, and the other tree doesn't do that. So I'm not sure what type it is, but it's really nice.